Hey there, thanks for joining me on my beautiful little podcast from my corner of the world over to yours. So glad you can join me today. I am excited to have a guest come back. His name is Mr. Jock Bartley, Jock, not like the one with the Q. It's Jock, Jock, from the band Firefall. Back again. They have another album of covers from some of their favorite music from the 70s and some from the 80s, a little bit from the 80s, including this wonderful track by a guy named Eddie Money. It's called Shaken. Don't know if you remember that one, but great covers. It's a wonderful new collection. They had another volume out about 2 years ago. So they're back out with this, and exciting to speak with Jock and all the wonderful memories that Firefall has provided for the whole world, not just the United States. Great band, and he just is keeping the legacy alive. Like so many bands from that era, it just had all these original members. Everybody split up. Some people have passed away. It's been a while, but Jock keeps the flame alive, and they still go out. They still tour. He's much more of a Western act. Came from Colorado, as we had spoken about in the previous episode, which is on talesfromthecorners.com as well. You can find all of that wherever you get podcasts. You could also search for my podcast, TFTC with Bob Nebel. Nebel is how the last name is spelled. Wherever you want to get your audio and podcasts and everything that comes with it. I prefer Amazon Music, but Apple, we're also there as well. Apple Podcasts as well. But this is a great collection of tunes that Jock has assembled with a wonderful group of musicians, and I highly recommend it. Friends and family, the second volume is coming out this week here in May of 2025. May 19th, this is a wonderful day. Celebrate your elected officials day. I'm not so sure that we should be doing that these days, but celebrate them anyway. There are a few good eggs there in that bunch on all levels of our lovely government here in the United States of America. Anyway, back to Jock. We have a lovely, lovely talk, and we'll talk with you on the other side of this lovely episode. Thank you so much. Did you upgrade to another phone? Is
No,
Because that always happens every time you get a new phone. It's like they move something somewhere else. It's always it's always tough to try to find things.
right. So I'm thinking I may not want to hold my phone for the whole time.
Yeah, if you
Let's
want to
see.
set it in a comfortable place, that's fine.
Well,
And if you give me too much headroom, I could always put your font right over your head. I do that a lot. Um, can you put it on its side
sure.
so we get 16 by 9? There you go.
You
Yeah.
know what? I'll probably just have to hold it.
And people have done that too in the past. That's fine. Yeah, that's cool. That's cool. How are you doing this morning? You're over in Boulder, Colorado?
I'm in Westminster in Denver, which is close to Boulder, but not in Boulder.
Very good. Very good. How is
And
it
where
out
are
there?
you at?
Yeah, Atlanta, Georgia.
Oh, okay.
It's a nice time of year. It's not too bad. We got through some really horrific storms. They were saying, oh, these twisters were headed towards us. And thankfully, the twisters didn't come this far over, but it's already a rocky spring. We're about ready to go into another drought, I think. So we
Yeah.
do, we can get wildfires like you do out west. It's maybe not as bad, but they can contain them a little bit quicker. But wow,
Right.
you've had some doozies out there in Colorado all the way to California more recently.
Yeah. And actually, Colorado has had the mildest winter I pretty much ever remember. We had many weeks of 65 degrees, and the storms will form all over the Rockies and give us a little rain or a little bit of snow, and then move to Kansas and have blizzard conditions. So we've been pretty lucky. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So ski season wasn't as good up that way. They had a
Oh no, I mean ski season's great. They have 180 inches or something, but we down here in Denver have been had a real mild deal.
yeah, yeah. You get up into the mountains, I'm sure. So Breckenridge, all those ski resorts, it
Right.
must be good. Good stuff out there and beautiful out that way as
Well,
well.
I'm glad we're on together, Bob.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's always it's fun to catch up with you. I had you on a little while ago when your friends and family project first took off. How long was that, a year or two ago now? I'm losing track.
Yeah, that was 2 years ago and did really pretty well for us last year. And it went so well getting some attention that my record label and manager said, let's do Friends and Family too. So I've just now, a few months ago, finished a whole new record with a whole new set of 12 songs under the same concept, which was um, Firefall. The original Firefall guys played in other famous bands like the Byrds and the Flying Breeder Brothers and Spirit and JoJo Gunn and Graham Parsons and Emmylou Harris in my case. And we expanded that concept to do back in the 1976 when our first album came out. We got to tour with just about all the top bands in the in America, including the Doobie Brothers and Fleetwood Mac and Leonard Skinnerd and Loggins and Messina. So we got a whole new album coming out.
What was that like opening up for like Fleetwood Mac? I always was like, and you were they were the top of their game in that Rumors tour.
Oh
It
man.
must have been like electric.
Well, yeah, it was totally electric, and you know when we started opening for Fleetwood Mac, our first gigs were like in either sold out stadiums of 60 to 70,000 people or sold out NBA basketball arenas of 20,000 people. And, one of the reasons Fleetwood Mac and other big bands liked Firefall as an opener was because we had the hits. We were a good band that had come from being a club band, so we could kind of get on stage and play without a sound check. And we could play a really good 40-minute set or whatever it was before they came on. So we got to play with just about everybody, which was unbelievable.
Yeah, that'd be so inspirational. And I know Mick Fleetwood was, and I think we talked about this last time, but Mick Fleetwood was just so instrumental in your growth as Firefall was just, getting bigger and bigger. It must have been fascinating to have him involved and really kind of mentoring you in a way.
Well, he mentored us for about 2 weeks.
That's all you need, really.
Uh, yeah,
Crash
and
course.
hey, if you're Mick Fleetwood in the biggest band in the world, 2 weeks is great.
Yeah.
He We toured with them a lot during the White Album for them, and then into
Yeah.
Rumors, we were one of their main opening acts of choice, and um, then he and Limited Management decided they wanted to be our manager. And so they actually became our manager and went and negotiated um, some stuff with Atlantic Records and came home with a really big check. And our lawyer out in Mick's mansion out in Bel Air, we had a really big meeting. And though we were staring at a $500,000 check made out to us,
Yeah.
uh, our lawyer told us, this contract is kind of worse than the one that we are getting out of. And our business manager, kind of a crooked guy, said out of 500 grand, we're going to pay each guy in the band $5,000. And we went, what?
Oh,
You're going to pay
gosh.
us 30 grand out of 500 grand? We're the band, damn it. So we ended up not going with Mick.
You hear these stories, and it's like amazing. It's like these people have been on the radio. You think, oh my gosh, they're it's just a cash cow. They're doing so great, but God, you hear about these horrible management deals and just sleazy people in the business just more
Right,
than profiting off of it.
right. Well, so many artists and bands got totally screwed by their managers, or combination managers slash agents slash record label. That was kind of the norm for a while. And I mean, when you go back and look into like Billy Joel's early days, he had something like 3 or 4 gold records and didn't see a penny.
Yeah, yeah.
He made
Insane.
he made his money on the road,
Yeah.
but where he should have been making, lots and lots of money for having 10 songs on an album or something, totally got screwed. Same thing with lead singer of Creedence Clearwater. It's like,
Yeah, John Fogerty went
yeah,
through
John
so
Fogerty couldn't
much.
think of.
Oh my gosh.
I mean, so Firefall got screwed contractually, and it was interesting because the band. I mean, our first album came out, and as I probably told you last time, it was said, I still kind of have trouble believing this, but we heard from very good sources that Firefall's first album in 1976 went gold
Yeah.
faster than any album that on Atlantic Records had ever done. And when you think about it, you had Led Zeppelin on Atlantic Records, you had Aretha Franklin, you had the Rolling Stones. You're going, nah, I don't believe that. But they said we went gold faster than any other album, and but the 6 guys in the band never made any artist royalties because Atlantic Records kept us in the red all the time, and the songwriters made royalties, but none of the rest of us did. So it was a screwy kind of thing, but that's how the business was.
Yeah, it's the songwriters. If you want to get into it, you give advice to somebody getting into it. It's get those publishing rights. And, you're a member of the band. No, it's not going to be forever. It's just, you feel like you're part of a family and everything, but it's still a business. When you're talking about Billy Joel, I mean, he's had members of the band, could have been there 20, 30 years, but at some point it does come to an end. And if you didn't get those songwriting publishing credits, then it gets into a financial, really tough situation. So yeah, I mean,
Right.
it's really tough.
And I don't really understand how it works today, but writers and publishers aren't really making any money. And you think about Nashville and all the people who goes to Nashville to write country songs and have a hit record. It's like it's totally changed, and the artist and the writer are getting screwed again. And my only thing that I'm really thankful for is that I ended up becoming the controller and owner of the name Firefall and the band. And so, I get to call the shots when we go out on the road, or are we going to do this or not that, but publishing has taken a nosedive for songwriters, and somebody's making money. I don't know who it is.
Yeah, it's probably big tech these days, the way streaming works. Like you don't even get like a hay penny for every play. It's like nothing. And yeah, now it's the guys at the top who are running these places. Your Apple, Spotify's, Amazon Music. It's just, it's such a different thing. But it's nice to have the convenience of being able to play. Hey, I could play the first Firefall album anywhere I want, which
Right.
was unheard of back in the day. So yeah, totally changed. And there's so much talent out there, and it's fantastic. But thing is, now everybody can do it. Everybody gets on, just about anybody can get on Spotify. So
Right.
it's cluttered.
It's cluttered. And, a lot of new music that's being put out there that's cluttering, the whole everything is, some of it's not very good.
Yeah, that's
So
right.
I know that I am just so fortunate and happy that my band Firefall played a small role in the 1970s, which was one of the most amazing and greatest decades for new music, and I attribute that actually to, back in the day, If you had songs of your own and a singer that sounded good singing them, record labels would sign you, and they would put out your album and see if it went. And if they really liked it, they'd push it. Um, and so many bands, the Eagles, Dan Fogelberg, Little River Band, Firefall, Loggins and Messina, Kenny Loggins. Um, we all had really good songs and radio friendly type of stuff, and consequently, we're able to get on the radio. But then in the 80s,
Yeah.
record labels started, feeling the power, and they wanted to come in and be there when you rehearsed for your new album. And they'd sit
Oh
there in the
gosh.
corner,
Oh,
happened to us one or two times, sit there in the corner with some record guy,
huh.
listening to your rehearsal saying, I don't think this is a hit. You got anything else? And they wanted to pick songs or give you songs to play, or not just let the band be who the band was. And from the 80s on, it got a lot weirder.
Yeah, how creatively stifling that is. I couldn't imagine, you got your A&R guys sitting in there and, they know what hits, certainly, but like they're telling you what to do. And
Right,
it's like, oh my gosh. Yeah, never tell an artist. I think David Bowie spoke to this too as well. It's like you're not real, you're not authentic. Where it really works is like what you want to do, how you want to explore and expand your career.
right.
So,
David
oh.
got David Bowie got told he wasn't authentic. Wow.
It's like, yeah, I mean, well, that's why he went off and did the projects he really wanted to do. And it's like,
Right,
no, don't sit there and like tell somebody what to do and
right.
tell them how to put the album together. But yeah,
I
Firefall.
remember, I remember because we were in Boulder, Colorado, and some bigwig from Atlantic Records called our manager and said, "Yeah, we're going to send out our A&R guy. When are you guys rehearsing?" Oh well, we're rehearsing next Monday and Tuesday. And sure enough, at Rick Roberts' house, they're knock on the door, and there's an Atlantic Records guy. And I remember very distinctly because Rick Roberts wrote pretty much all of our hits. Our other singer songwriter, Larry Burnett, had Cinderella and had a lot of great songs, but not commercial like Rick did. And, had the A&R guy from Atlantic Records tell Rick, I don't hear a hit. You got anything else? And Ricky's going, how about this one? And he'd play another song, and the guy, no, you got anything else? And this is a record guy. And
Oh
here we are
gosh.
trying to make our second or third record. It was like, oh my God, it was terrible.
Yeah, and toxic. I mean, how do you get inspired when you're trying to rehearse or record and they're in the room saying, "Yeah, I'm not hearing a single here." It's got to be just crushing.
Right. They weren't there. They played that role for a little while. Excuse me.
Yeah. Yeah.
But when it came time to recording the album, nobody was there from the label, and it was a good thing too because for me, the lead guitar player, when I was out in the recording room playing solos on songs, some of which I knew what basically I wanted to play, and other songs just wing it and just play what felt good at the moment. There wasn't a guy from the label saying, that guitar solo kind of wasn't what we were hearing. Can you try something else? I didn't have to go through that.
That's good. So nobody in there saying, "Hey, we need some saxophone." That's pretty big these days.
Yeah, that's right. How about a little flute here? Okay.
Yeah, very big back then. You had Jethro Tull up in your time too, as well. So, like, when you started, like, did Atlantic say, "Hey, I want 3 albums in the next 3 years"? How did that work? What did they contract you to when you first were on with Atlantic?
We had a 7 album deal, and we owed Atlantic Records one album a year. And
Yeah,
then when things kind of got weird and we ended up in our manager lottery, which we had pretty much once a year, when our third manager lottery came around, we needed a new manager. And we picked Mick Fleetwood. He
yeah.
went in and stopped the presses on a record that we weren't really that happy about, but the record label said, "Oh no, it's great," and everything. And Mick Fleetwood went to a meeting with all the bigwigs of Atlantic and New York and said, "I represent Firefall now, and we want to stop the presses." And we stopped the presses and got to redo and add a few songs and made the record a lot better. So when it came out, it went gold real quick, which it probably would not have done had we left it originally how it was.
What one song became a hit and you didn't think was going to become a hit out of your entire catalog?
Uh, I don't really have an answer for that
Yeah.
because um, I thought that we'd have some big songs off our first album. We were about 75% of the way done recording our first album. And Rick Roberts came in one day and said, "I just wrote a new song, which was You Are the Woman." And
Yeah.
we all listened to it and went, "Oh, Poppy." Poppy kind of, yeah, okay. And we kind of all knew, and the producer knew right away that's the first
Yeah.
single, you know. And it ended up not being the first single because nobody had heard of Firefall yet, so they put out "Livin' Ain't Livin'" as the first single to introduce the name Firefall to Billboard and the public. And "Livin' Ain't Livin' got into the top 40 as a brand new band, and then they put "You Are the Woman" out, and it was on in the top 10 or the top 20 for like 6 months, and got to number 3 on the Billboard charts. And then suddenly, the rock band from Boulder, Firefall, is really a poppy light rock band, with
Yeah.
"You Are the
Yeah.
Woman." And after "You Are the Woman" was such a big hit, Atlantic Records, had they had their way, they probably wanted 10 "You Are the Womans" on an
Yeah.
album.
Exactly. Yeah, that's how it works. I mean, and you see this in the movie industry too. That's why we have sequels. That's why we have, hey, if it worked then now, we can keep doing this. And so then you're gonna get pigeonholed. Oh, yeah, you're the guys we always hear in the dentist's office. That's really light rock, It's
That's right, light rock. And you know what? Without our light rock hits like "You Are the Woman" and "Just Remember I Love You," we wouldn't have been nearly as big as we ended up being. But when people who only listened at that time